Hello, and welcome to the Simple Protein Packed Meal Plan Workshop. In case you were wondering, premenopause or perimenopause brain fog is real. So, last night when I was giving this presentation on Zoom, I forgot to hit record. So, I don't have a recording to share with all of you who couldn't make it live. So I am redoing it and talking to myself basically. So let's get right into it. So if you don't know, oops, how do I switch? Okay, how do I get to the next screen? There we go. Okay, if you don't know who I am, my name is Christina Brown. I have been in the fitness industry for over 20 years now. And I currently, for the past 5 years, have been running Be Fit with Christina. And what we do at Be Fit with Christina is we help women in perimenopause and beyond finally lose that stubborn weight that's just been sticking around, finally feel confident in their bodies again. And we do it all without complicated diets. I personally don't believe in diets. To me, diet is a 4-letter word. So we do this all by making simple lifestyle changes. And you're going to notice that the word simple is going to be a recurring theme in the presentation today. And we also don't do any crazy workouts. We do very simple, basic workouts, things that get the job done without being overcomplicated. Okay, so we're going to skip this quick poll since nobody is on here right now watching me, and we'll move right along. So by the end of this masterclass, you will have a simple meal planning framework that fits your busy life. I think so much in the diet industry, the fitness industry is very overcomplicated, and it doesn't have to be. It truly is the simple things that work. And as soon as we overcomplicate things, that's when it's really hard to follow through. And that's when people give up because they get overwhelmed. So my goal is to keep everything incredibly simple, basic, easy to do, but it gets the job done. Okay. You're also going to learn how to get 25 grams of protein in every single meal. I'm going to share with you some common mistakes that I see that actually slow down your metabolism. And then at the end, I'm going to share a bonus, which can be your next step to really kind of uncover what's going on. Why haven't I been able to lose this weight? Why am I feeling stuck? Why am I struggling so much? We'll help you figure out exactly what that is. So a lot of things to accomplish over the next 45 minutes to an hour. Took me about an hour last night, and that was with people asking questions and such. So hopefully today it will just be about 45 minutes. I want to be very mindful of your time. All right, so moving along, let's talk about a myth that I hear a lot, and I personally used to believe this myth as well. And the myth is that meal planning is super complicated and it takes a ton of time. And it's actually not true. You really don't need to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. You don't need any fancy schmancy ingredients. Meal planning actually can be very simple. I'm going to teach you how to make it repeatable. And maybe fun if you're not like me. It's never going to be fun for me because I don't like cooking personally. It's just not my favorite thing to do. I do it because I have to, but I don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So that's why, to me, making meal planning simple and repeatable is key. If you find it to be fun too, then that's even better for you. So we will teach you tonight or today how to make it simple and not make it so complicated. All right, so a really big mistake that I see a lot of women making is skipping meals or under eating. So a lot of women opt to say skip breakfast. so that they can save calories up for, the rest of the day, especially if they know that they're, going out to dinner in the evenings. They think, well, I'll save calories at breakfast by skipping breakfast so I can use those calories at dinner. Or women just are under eating in general because they think they have to eat less and less and less in order to lose weight. And yes, we do have to eat in a calorie deficit in order to lose weight, but we don't have to undereat. There's a difference there. So under eating and skipping meals actually is counterintuitive, and it really does backfire on you. What ends up happening is that you end up getting more and more cravings. You end up having more energy crashes, and your metabolism slows down. So your metabolism is essentially all of the calories that you are burning throughout the day just by living your life. And I actually did a whole masterclass on your metabolism. It's on this YouTube channel as well, so you can always go over and watch that too to learn a little bit more about the 4 different parts of your metabolism, and how you can increase your metabolism, so you can increase the amount of calories that you're burning throughout the day in simple ways. Okay, so what ends up happening when we are skipping meals or we are under eating, and by under eating I mean eating less than 1,200 calories a day. Now, unless you are 5 feet tall or shorter, 1,200 calories most likely is not enough to fuel your body for everything it has to do. Okay? And in that metabolism workshop, you will learn the formula to calculate what your BMR is, which is like the biggest piece of your metabolism, and you need to be eating at least that amount of calories throughout the day in order to properly fuel your body for all of the amazing things that it does. Okay, so if we're not fueling our bodies properly, if we're not eating enough, then our brains kind of naturally go back to the caveman days. And so during the winters, especially when the cavemen, weren't able to go out and harvest, plants, or go out and kill animals for food, their bodies naturally wanted to keep them alive. And so what they would do is the bodies would hold on to fat, because your fat will keep you warm through the winter and keep you alive and all of that. So anytime you're not fueling your body properly, and especially for prolonged periods of time, your body starts to hold on to that fat and that slows your metabolism down. So it's really backfiring. And then also your blood sugar is all out of whack. Those blood sugar spikes and crashes are what cause cravings. It's that crash that causes cravings. It's that crash that causes you to lose energy. Okay, so we want to be sure that we're able to stabilize our blood sugar, and I will show you how to do that. And we're going to do that by planning balanced meals with lots of protein. Okay, because the protein is going to help you stay full. It's going to help keep your energy levels up. It's going to keep those cravings at bay, and it's going to balance out and keep your blood sugar levels stable, which is huge. Okay. All right, so a second mistake that I see a lot of women making is that they're not eating enough protein. Unless you have a kidney condition or have been told otherwise by your physician that you have to be on a low protein diet, protein is healthy for everybody else, okay? And it really is your metabolism's best friend, okay? We'll talk a little bit more about what it does to kind of help keep your metabolism elevated. But what I see is that most women are only eating about 10 to 15 grams of protein per meal, sometimes even less. And so typically when clients first come to me, and the very first week, I just have them track their food the way that they have always been eating, so I can kind of get a better idea of where they're starting from. And most of them are starting at anywhere from like 40 to 60 grams per day. And that really is not enough to truly help us with our health and our weight loss goals. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're getting at least 25 grams of protein at every single meal. Okay, and that will help us to lose fat. So when we want to lose weight and we are eating in a calorie deficit, we want to ensure that we are losing fat and not just losing weight. Okay. A lot of times, if you're not prioritizing protein and building muscle when you are losing weight, when you're on a diet, when you're on Ozempic or any of those weight loss drugs, if you're not prioritizing protein and muscle building, you are losing muscle. Okay, and you are really slowing down your metabolism when that happens. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're preserving our muscle, and I'll talk in a minute here about why that's incredibly important, especially as we age. Okay, but protein is huge. We want to make sure 25 grams of protein at every single meal, including your snacks, and that's the one where it kind of gets people, because it's hard to get 25 grams of protein at a snack sometimes, unless you know little tips and tricks. So if you don't already have my protein snack guide, you can comment below this video and just say snack guide, and I can send that over to you as well, because it will help you make sure you're getting enough protein during your snacks as well. Okay, so we're going to skip this slide since nobody's here to answer, but this was just kind of seeing how much protein you're already at. So let's talk a little bit more about why protein is so important and why it really is kind of a secret weapon for fat loss and for energy. Two things that I find the majority of women in their 40s and up are really concerned with. So as we age, we start losing our muscle mass just naturally. It's called sarcopenia. It's the age-related loss of muscle mass. And this starts in our 30s. And every decade, starting in our 30s, we're losing 3 to 10% of our muscle mass each decade. And the reason this is harmful, one of the biggest reasons it is harmful, is that muscle is more metabolically active than fat is. So what that means is that muscle burns more calories just at rest. So if you have more muscle on your body, even when you're sleeping, you're burning more calories. Okay, fat does not burn as many calories. Okay, it's quite a bit less. So if we are losing muscle, then our metabolism is slowing down because we're burning fewer calories throughout the day. And what ends up happening as we age then is, we're still eating the same number of calories, but now our metabolism has slowed down because we've lost muscle. And so now we're eating in a calorie surplus, which means we're gaining weight. And we have to eat even less in order to lose weight, in order to be in a calorie deficit, because our metabolism has slowed down. So if you take away anything from this entire workshop, I want you to take away the fact that muscle is one of the most important things that you can preserve or build as you age. It has so many incredible benefits. I can do an entire presentation all about the benefits of muscle. And maybe I will one day. But muscle is super important. So protein helps to preserve our muscle. And again, it also keeps our blood sugar stable, like I mentioned before, and therefore it supports your metabolism. It keeps your metabolism elevated and working like you want it to be working and not slowing down as you age. So even if you have already lost muscle mass, it's not too late. They have done studies on women in their 70s who started lifting weights and prioritizing protein, and they have built muscle back and elevated their metabolism. So it's never too late to start. Muscle is incredibly important. All right. moving along here. So, like I mentioned earlier, target should be 25 grams of protein at every single meal, including your snacks. Okay, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Okay, to hit 25 grams at every meal. We just have to know what foods we should be eating, right? And that's what I'm going to help you with here today. So, how can we hit 25 grams of protein without a whole lot of stress? So, my main tip that I can give you is to keep several go-to protein options that you enjoy always available. So, I would highly recommend having a master grocery list and having your go-to proteins on there at all times so that anytime you run out of that protein, you can circle it, highlight it, whatever you want to do, but the next time you go to the grocery store, you need to buy more of that. So I will share with you what my go-tos are that I always have on hand. Number one, and my most favorite, is Greek yogurt. I'm not a huge meat eater, so I always thought protein meant eating lots of meat, and I was like, well, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to eat more protein because I don't want to eat a whole ton of meat. You don't have to. And Greek yogurt is kind of my secret weapon. A cup of Greek yogurt has at least 25 grams of protein. So if you have a cup of Greek yogurt for breakfast or for a snack, you've hit your goal for protein for that meal. Okay, already right there. I recommend buying the non-fat plain Greek yogurt. There are a lot of Greek yogurts out there nowadays, a lot of flavored ones, like my kids like those flip ones where you can flip a bunch of little toppings in there. I urge you to stay away from those unless it's like a that's all that's available to you, because they have quite a bit of sugar. And yes, Greek yogurt on its own, plain Greek yogurt, does not taste good, but you can sweeten it yourself, and you have a lot more control when you are sweetening it yourself. So you can put in a little bit of honey, a little bit of maple syrup, like a teaspoon or a tablespoon, stir it in there, and you sweeten it up, and it tastes a lot better. I'm a creature of habit, so for my snack every single night, it used to be ice cream. And as soon as I started eating more protein, I no longer had those sugar cravings. So protein really, truly, 100% helps with, I used to have the biggest sweet tooth. And immediately when I started eating more protein, that sweet tooth went away. And it was kind of shocking to me because I never thought my sweet tooth would go away because I love sweets. So I used to have ice cream every night for dessert. But now I have Greek yogurt, a little bit of sweetener, and some fruit. And I have that every single night. It tastes like dessert. And there's a lot of things you can do with Greek yogurt outside of a parfait. I use Greek yogurt in place of mayonnaise and in place of sour cream. I am Ukrainian, and growing up, we had sour cream in the refrigerator at all times. And so to be able to swap out Greek yogurt for sour cream as a Ukrainian, I feel is a good thing. I can dip my pierogies in a little bit of Greek yogurt instead of sour cream, give myself some protein, not so much fat, all good. You can also use Greek yogurt in place of mayonnaise. So if you're making a chicken salad or a tuna salad, use the Greek yogurt instead of the mayonnaise. And you're going to add protein, you're going to take away all that fat that came from the mayo. So a lot of things that you can do with it. So that is my number one go-to. My number two go-to is cottage cheese. I am very, very picky about my cottage cheese. There's only one brand I like. It's the Roundy's brand from Mariano's. And I know a lot of people don't like cottage cheese because of the texture. So if that's you, what I would recommend is I would try buying cottage cheese and blending it. And you can use that as a spread on bread. You can add that to your scrambled eggs a little bit. You can add it into pasta sauce to make more of a Alfredo-ish type sauce, but with tons of protein in there. So if you just Google, blended cottage cheese recipes, tons of stuff is going to come up. So even if you don't like the texture of cottage cheese, you can still use it because, again, a cup of cottage cheese is going to have about 25, 26 grams of protein. So if you just have a cup, a lot of times I just have a cup of cottage cheese as a snack, and there's, it hits that goal of 25 grams. I also always have lunch meat on hand. Turkey lunch meat is typically your best option, lowest calorie. But a lot of times I get ham because I just like ham better, honey ham especially. But having that around, it's super easy to, put together for a sandwich or, put into a roll up. A lot of things you can do with it. And don't hold yourself to just like 2 slices of turkey or ham. Okay, throw 4 or 5 slices on there. Okay, there's not a lot of calories in it, and you're going to get a lot more protein. You're going to feel a lot more satisfied from your sandwich or your wrap. So, biggest mistake I see women making when they're eating, sandwiches or wraps is that they just put like 1 slice of turkey. Like, no, throw more turkey on there. Up that protein, really make it work for you. Another go-to that I always have on hand is protein bars. There is nothing wrong with relying on a little bit of protein shake or protein shakes, protein powders, protein bars in order to help you hit your protein goal. It doesn't always have to come only from those like whole food sources. I have a protein bar every single day. It helps me hit my goal. And I enjoy them. So you can find some tasty ones. My favorites are the Built Bar Puffs and Pure Protein. I would recommend making sure that your protein bar has 200 calories or less and at least 18 to 20 grams of protein in it. And less than 5 grams of sugar, ideally. Some protein bars are going to have a lot of sugar in them, a lot of calories, and that's not going to help you as much, even though you're getting the protein in. So just take a look at the ingredients list on your protein bars. I know last night somebody asked the question, like, what are some clean protein bars? And really, I would look at the ones that, go to your grocery store, and they usually have that aisle full of, individual protein bars that you can pick from, and just look at the ingredients list. The ones that have fewer ingredients are going to be cleaner. But also double check and make sure less than 200 calories, at least 18 grams of protein, less than 5 grams of sugar, and to make sure that you're choosing one that is going to help you, going to help you move closer to your goals. Okay. And then finally, this isn't really like a protein source, but I always have the Mission Carb Balanced tortillas on hand. There's a lot you can do with them. You can make wraps, you can make quesadillas, tacos, breakfast burritos, like so much you can do with them. And they have a ton of protein and a ton of fiber. One wrap typically has 60 to 70 calories, and it typically has about 14 grams of fiber. And ideally, you want to get at least 25 grams of fiber per day. I have a client who uses those wraps to make breakfast burritos, and she gets like 50 some grams of fiber per day because of using those wraps. And then they also typically have about 7-8 grams of protein. So they do help, especially if you're throwing more protein in there, like eggs or, lunch meat or anything like that. They are really nice and handy to use. So those are my go-tos. I recommend you figure out what your go-tos are and always have them on your master grocery list. Make sure they're always on hand. If you have that protein available in your house, you're much more likely to follow through and hit your protein goals. All right. Oops. Oh, here we go. Maybe. Okay. So let's visualize what 25 grams of protein looks like. A lot of people like to eat eggs for breakfast, and that's totally fine. They do have protein in them, but they're not super, super, super protein rich. You have to eat, each egg has about 6 grams of protein. So you have to eat about 4 eggs in order to hit, close to 25 grams of protein. So what I recommend you do is to use 2 full eggs and then add in a 1/4 cup or a 1/3 cup of egg whites or egg beaters. And that way you are getting a lot more protein without a lot of extra fat and calories. So the egg yolk is the part of the egg that has the most, fat in it. So, 1/4 cup, 1/3 cup of egg whites is very low calorie, no fat, and a lot of protein. So 2 full eggs and then some egg beaters, and you'll be able to hit your 25 grams much easier. 4 ounces of chicken breast, 4 to 6 ounces of most meats or fishes. Fishes? Is that a word? Fish. It will have about 25 grams of protein. And I actually have a protein cheat sheet that I can share with you as well. So I'll try to drop all the links to the different protein guides that I have under this video, so you can download those as well. But now, I don't know about you, but I can't really look at a piece of meat and be like, yes, that's 4 ounces of chicken. And they typically say like your palm, size of your palm is like a serving of protein, but that's kind of hard to determine too for me. So I highly recommend buying a cheap kitchen scale. You can get one on Amazon for $10 or less. And especially at the beginning, weigh your food so you know how much you're eating. We often overestimate how much we eat. And if you're struggling to lose weight and you've been, tracking your food and thinking that you're eating in a calorie deficit, but the weight's not coming off, it might be because you're underestimating how much you're actually eating. And weighing your food, measuring your food can help a lot with that. And I know it's a pain, but if you really want to hit your goal, sometimes we have to do a little extra work, and then eventually you'll have a better idea and be able to kind of eyeball a serving size of protein. But kitchen scale will be a game changer. So like I said earlier, a cup of cottage cheese, a cup of Greek yogurt have about 25 grams of protein bar, and you want to find one that has about 20 grams as well. So the better you get at visualizing, your proteins or weighing them out and seeing, the easier it will be to hit your goals as well. So, oops. Oh, sorry. Working. Another myth that I hear from women is that eating protein will make me bulky. It's absolutely not true. Okay, we don't get bulky from protein. Like I said before, it's going to help us with our muscle mass. Okay, it's going to support our metabolism, so increase our metabolism, and it's incredibly important as we age. So here you can see a client of mine before she was focusing on protein, and then after, and she really went all in on protein, and she was typically eating more than her goal, and she 100% did not get bulky. What typically happens when people are telling me, well, I started eating more protein and I started gaining weight, what typically is the case there is that you're eating more calories when you're eating more protein. So you still have to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose weight. So it's not the protein that made you gain weight, it's the additional calories that you've been eating, because you added protein but you didn't take away something else maybe, right? So you're eating more calories, and that's what's making you gain weight. Protein is not going to make you gain weight. In fact, it is one of the best ways to lose weight. And what I do with my clients is, before I even put them in a calorie deficit, I give them a protein goal to focus on. And as soon as they start focusing on eating more protein, they're losing weight naturally, because they're naturally eating fewer calories when they're eating more protein. okay, before they even have to like think about it, because protein keeps them feeling full, keeps them, satiated, keeps their blood sugar stable. So they're eating less overall. So protein will 100% not make you bulky. All right, so here is the meal planning formula. So for me, it's a 3-step formula because I'm not a big fan of step 4. But I put step 4 in there because some people really enjoy doing that. But again, this is simple, it's repeatable, and it's realistic for a busy life. That's key. It's not going to overwhelm you. And so I just want to differentiate between meal planning and meal prepping. Meal prepping is actually cooking or putting together meals ahead of time. Okay, that's not what we're talking about with here. Meal planning is just deciding ahead of time what you're going to be eating. Okay, that's all it is. So what I do when I sit down to do my meal planning, and I typically do it on Fridays, and I have a recurring event in my calendar for every Friday to spend a little bit of time to plan my meals for the following week. So what I do is I sit down with my calendar, I take a look at maybe evenings that my kids have events and I won't be able to, have a whole lot of time to actually like cook something. So those days, maybe it's leftovers or maybe it's a crock pot meal. And I sit down, I have a binder of recipes. And then I also save recipes from social media and different websites. So I kind of go through and flip through the binder, see what looks like, stuff I want to eat that upcoming week. I will go through the recipes I've saved. And as soon as I, write what we're going to be eating each day, then I create my grocery list based on that. So it kind of all gets done at once. And honestly, it takes me 15 minutes max. So it doesn't have to take a really, really long time, but it's huge. If you think about getting home after a long day at work, if you already know what you're going to make and you already have all of the ingredients available in your house to make that thing, you're going to make it. However, if you get home from a long day of work and the kids and your husband are asking, what's for dinner, and you had not planned anything ahead of time, and you have decision fatigue and you can't come up with anything, and then once you do come up with something, you don't have the ingredients available, so you'd have to go to the grocery store to buy some stuff. Much of the time, you're just going to cave and you're going to order in pizza or go through the McDonald's drive-thru, right? But if it's planned ahead of time, it's much easier to stick to your goals. Planning really is key, okay? So when you're doing your meal planning, and you can, create a master meal plan, just put the breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks along the top, days of the week along the side, and then you can fill in, as you go. I recommend starting with just one meal for the week so that you're not totally overwhelming yourself. I recommend starting with dinner because that's typically the hardest one to kind of put something together, right? And then eventually, add in your lunches, your breakfast, your snacks, things like that. But if you're feeling gung-ho and you want to do all of them right away, go for it. It's going to make your life very, very simple once you've done it, okay? So first thing you're doing is you're picking your proteins. What protein am I going to eat on Monday at dinner? Okay, what protein am I going to eat at Tuesday at dinner? So on and so forth. Same thing for breakfast, lunches once you get there. Then you're going to add in vegetables, which is going to add some fiber. Okay, and again, we want to aim for 25 grams of fiber a day. And fiber is similar to protein in that it helps keep us feeling full and satiated for longer. And it's, good for our digestive system to make sure that we're having enough protein. So then you're going to add in your veggie. And even, for your breakfast, throw some veggies into your scrambled eggs. Get vitamins and minerals from the veggies. They do not have to be fresh veggies. They can be frozen veggies. They're just as nutritious. Okay. Step 3, you're going to add in your healthy carb and or healthy fat. So your healthy carbs are your carbs that have fiber in them for the most part, kind of a general way of looking at it. So the carbs that will have more fiber in them are the ones that are less processed. Okay, so processed carbs are things like white bread, white pasta, cookies, muffins, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, anything that comes in a package is processed. Your complex carbs, the ones with your fiber, are going to be like your whole grain bread, whole wheat pasta, beans, quinoa, fruits. Okay, those are your healthy carbs. So if they have fiber, they're most likely the ones that you want to add to your meal. Okay, potatoes, sweet potatoes, all that kind of stuff. Do not be afraid of carbohydrates. They are not bad. They've gotten a horrible rap, but we need them. In fact, the only thing that our brains use for fuel is carbohydrates. So if you've ever been on a low carb diet and you've noticed a lot of brain fog, most likely due to not getting carbohydrates and not giving your body the fuel, or not giving your brain the fuel it needs. Okay, your healthy fats are going to be things like your healthy oils would be olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Avocados, of course, are a healthy fat. Just be careful with the portion size of the fat that you're eating because they are pretty calorie dense. So typically a serving of fat is like the size of your thumb. Okay, for reference. So you've chosen your protein first, you've added a veggie, you've added a healthy carb, maybe also a healthy fat. You could stop there. Okay. Step 4, if you want, you can prep ahead of time. And this is, helpful for breakfasts and lunches, especially breakfast. If you're kind of busy in the morning, you're running out the door, you're rushed, you don't have a lot of time. If you prep your breakfast ahead of time, you just have to grab, you make a bunch of overnight oats and you just grab them out of the fridge on your way out the door. Same thing if you kind of prep your lunches ahead of time, especially if you work out of the house. If you work from home, it's a little bit easier, right? But if you work out of the house, if you can just quickly grab what you've already prepared for lunch, and maybe that's even your leftovers from dinner. That's what I typically eat for lunch. I know it's already high protein, saves meal planning because I know exactly what I'm going to be having because I already had it for dinner. Just grab that and go. So if you are short on time for, during breakfast and lunch and such, that is definitely, prepping ahead of time can be helpful for you. All right, so here's an example of a quick, easy, simple, protein-packed day. Now, I am a creature of habit, so I'm okay eating the same foods over and over again. Like I said, with my Greek yogurt for a snack every single day. I really don't get tired of foods, but if you are somebody who does get tired, make sure you're rotating your meals. So have, 3 or 4 go-to breakfasts, 3 or 4 go-to lunches. Dinners are typically, have a little bit more variety than breakfast and lunch do. So maybe you have 8 to 10 go-to dinners and then, 3 to 4 go-to snacks. And literally make a list of your go-tos. That's going to save you so much time. It's going to save you so many headaches, especially when you're, sitting down to meal plan. If you already have that list of, 5 go-to breakfasts, okay, well, pick which ones you want that week. Same thing with your lunches. Pick which ones you want that week. Make it easy on yourself. You don't overcomplicate it. You don't have to have tons of variety. Make it super simple. Okay. So breakfast can be that Greek yogurt parfait. Lunch, chicken salad. And for this, maybe you had chicken for dinner the night before. So you're just going to chop it up and you bought one of those bagged salads, throw it in there, boom. Super easy, simple. Another option, if, you didn't have leftover, meat from dinner the night before, those flavored tuna pouches are great. They typically have anywhere from, depending on the flavor, 16 to 20 grams of protein in one pouch. Bagged salad, throw that tuna in there, and you've got a great, healthy, filling lunch with plenty of protein. Quick dinner can be salmon and roasted veggies. And you can always roast those veggies ahead of time. So if you know you don't have time to roast the veggies when you get home from work, roast a bunch of veggies the night before, throw them in the fridge, or maybe even on Sunday you roast a whole bunch of veggies and then you have them throughout the week. So a lot of things you can do to, spend a little bit of time on the front end, but save a ton of time on the back end. And then a real simple snack like a mini charcuterie board. You don't have to get all cutesy and pretty with it. Just some lunch meat, some cheese, some pickles, whatever, almonds, a couple almonds. Can be a nice, easy snack that you can kind of throw together. Okay, you can even, they have those like snackle boxes now, so you can fill that up and just eat out of that for the week, or maybe make 5 different ones for the week, for your snacks and such. So super simple. None of these meals, especially breakfast, lunch, snack, that are going to take you less than 5 minutes to put together. Dinner, maybe it'll take you 30 minutes to put together. Okay, so don't have to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. Don't have to go crazy with the ingredients. Super simple. Okay. All right, so another common mistake is that we tend to overthink, right? And we think it should be more complicated than it has to be. Don't overthink it. Just focus on the basics. Focus on those staple proteins. That is the main thing. Just have those staples always ready, and boom, you can make any meal you want with it, okay? And also, thinking that you have to buy these fancy ingredients, you have to make, every meal gourmet. No, that you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to end up not doing it at all and going to Chick-fil-A. So simple, okay? If you want to add flavoring, use some spices. Super easy to do. You have those on hand. Don't overcomplicate it. Simple ingredients, simple meals. That's it. That's all you need. All right, we're not going to do this because nobody's here to plan with me. All right, so a couple of additional tips to kind of save some time and make you feel less stressed is you can cook your proteins in bulk. So, on Sundays you can bake a few chicken breasts or ground up some ground turkey or ground beef or tofu, and, just store them in airtight containers, either in the fridge or in the freezer, and then that way you have a protein source ready to go. Okay, you don't have to do any extra work. Okay, it's basically effortless at that point. Another tip is use frozen vegetables. I said this earlier. Okay, it's a huge time saver. They're just as nutritious. Add them to stir fries, soups, your scrambled eggs, whatever you have to do. Just have a bunch of, a few bags on hand, but have frozen vegetables as one of your items on your master grocery list, and just make sure you always have some available. And it's super then easy to do step 2 of your meal planning process. Okay, you've already got them. You don't have to chop anything. Speaking of chopping, you can pre-chop your veggies when you first get home from the grocery store, so that they're all set and ready to go. Or at the grocery store, you can already buy pre-chopped veggies, okay, if you really don't have time. And then use those salad kits, okay? So you can easily add veggies to dishes. You can easily throw together a salad. You always have some nutrient-dense foods available to add to your protein, okay? All right, so tips to make it stick, okay? If you're feeling overwhelmed by this information, then just start by planning one day ahead. Okay? Decide what you're going to eat for each meal. Prep any things that you can ahead of time, but just do it for tomorrow. Right? And then tomorrow you can do it for Sunday. Or, well, today's Friday when I'm saying this, so whatever day tomorrow is for you as you're watching. But, just kind of get used to doing one day ahead. And then you can eventually start doing maybe 3 days ahead. Okay, and eventually meal plan for your whole week. Okay, but start slow, baby steps. It's okay. Again, keep your protein sources simple and repeatable. And I always recommend tracking your meals, especially if you are trying to lose weight. And the only way we can lose weight is to eat in a calorie deficit. And the only way we know if we're eating in a calorie deficit is if we are tracking our food. So again, you can just start very simple and just maybe start tracking proteins to make sure you're hitting 25 grams of protein at each meal, okay? And eventually, especially if you are struggling to lose weight and you've been trying for a while, starting to really track your calories to find out, if you're eating in a calorie deficit or not, can be a game changer. And yes, it's annoying to do. It's not fun to track your food. It takes a little bit of time, but it is a total game changer. And my clients who track the most consistently are the ones that have the best results. So it really does help a lot. All right, so even with perfect protein, weight loss can still stall. So there's a lot of pieces to the weight loss puzzle, especially as we age. And there are 3 pieces that a lot of us don't even think about when it comes to weight loss, that really do kind of slow down or keep us from losing weight. One is sleep. Okay, if you're not getting enough sleep, and the goal is to get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, you have a lot more cravings, okay? Low sleep equals high cravings, and it's a lot harder to say no to those cravings when you're sleep deprived, okay? So prioritizing sleep, figuring out how you can get more sleep, how you can improve your sleep will help a ton in your weight loss efforts. So that might be, if you're struggling to lose weight, it might be because of your sleep. Another one is stress. Chronic stress makes weight loss harder, okay? It also increases our cravings, and it encourages fat storage, okay? When our body releases the cortisol that comes from chronic stress, that encourages our body to hang on to fat, which is not what we want it to do, right? So finding ways to manage your stress. We are always going to have stress, but it's how we handle the stress that makes a difference. So being able to manage your stress can help you lose weight. Okay. And then finally, hormones. As we get into perimenopause, our hormones start going haywire. And so the shifts in those hormones can slow down our metabolism. They increase belly fat, and they also spike cravings. So yes, it is harder to lose weight as we age because of our hormones kind of shifting all over the place. However, it's not a death sentence. It doesn't mean that you're never going to be able to lose weight. There are ways to work with your hormones to help stabilize them that will allow you to lose weight. Okay, so it doesn't just come down to eating healthy, eating enough protein, exercising. Weight loss also can be affected by sleep, stress, and our hormones. So this was the bonus I was talking about earlier. I have a free assessment that you can take to kind of find out what's really slowing down your metabolism. Why aren't you losing weight? And it's super simple. It'll take you like 3 minutes to fill out. And then you will get a report letting you know what your biggest factor might be in why your metabolism is just not working the way you want it to be working. So I will put this link, you can screenshot this, and I'll also put the link in the comments so that just click on it. It's completely free, and it can help kind of open your eyes to what might be going on with your metabolism and why you are struggling to lose weight. All right. If you have questions, you can drop them in the comments below, and I will answer them as I see them. But you did it. Okay, you made it through the presentation. Okay, 49 minutes or so I wasn't too far off. So stop guessing, start seeing results, take that assessment, okay? And it will help you create a simple, doable plan so that you can hit those protein goals and finally see progress, even with your hormones going haywire and everything else that comes with perimenopause and beyond. So thank you for sticking with me. Again, ask any questions that you have, and I will drop a whole bunch of resources under this video in regards to protein as well as the metabolic assessment, so you can take that. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.